We'll get started as people shuffle in, but it's right for a game panel that people are starting to leave. In 1997, Laura Croft introduced me to Steve Jobs. Neither one of them was fully formed. And I got an email one day at my desk, and the title of the email was Meeting with Steve Jobs about the Future of Computing. So as soon as I'd done looking under the table and around to see if there are cameras in the office, I said, this is really cool, and I decided to go to the meeting with Steve Jobs. And the reason he wanted to go there, me to go to the meeting, is I had the #1 game on the market, and he had the worst company in the world that Michael Dell said that he should fold and just give the money back to the shareholders. And Steve Jobs believed that people don't buy hardware for hardware, they buy hardware for what they can do with it. He called the game a bicycle, or a computer, a bicycle for your mind. And these are some of the ads that he ran. If you remember, every Apple ad that you saw, and most of the Apple ads that you see today, are always showing you what they do, not features, not technology, or anything else. And what he said is that games are the #2 application, they're the #2 reason that people buy computers. And he said the reason they're #2 is because people lie. He said they're really not #2, they're really #1. And we need the top games on our platform to make it so that people will buy this new computer, because I've been given a pile of shit, and my new computer, the iMac plus your content, will be able to make it successful. But a lot of things have changed since then. So Laura's evolved, Steve Jobs has passed away, and now, for the first time ever, the game use, percentage of use of computers for games has actually fallen this past year. Shaul is going to have some thoughts on this. But the thing that you should notice in looking at this chart is the very same time as the game use has fallen, social and messaging have gone up, and they've replaced it. And the people that we have on the panel are great for us to help to explain this, because we're playing games when we don't even know it. Half of the audience isn't going to understand what they're looking for from the Munich airport. You just explained that to her so that now you understand what that is too. That's a urinal fly. We see this all the time. And it's a game that we instantly play when we walk in to use the bathroom in the Munich airport. These companies are using their game expertise and their game backgrounds and incorporating game rules to make messaging and social more entertaining, which means that games are still dominating the hardware that you're using today. So now I'm excited to come on and talk to these guys about what they're doing and growing our market. So let's start with you, Shaul. Why don't you tell us what you're doing and about PlayBuzz? And
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Shaul Olmert, co-founder and CEO of PlayBuzz. PlayBuzz is a content platform that enables content creators to create new engaging experiences for their audiences. In a way, those experiences don't fall into the criteria of games. We as a company don't have a games company or a games publisher business model, but nonetheless, the user interaction with the content that's created using our platform is very gamish in nature. Right. In a way, you can achieve the play experience without necessarily playing a game, so even by consuming content.
Most of the people sitting here are saying, I've never seen a PlayBuzz product, but if you tell them one, they will all say that they've seen a PlayBuzz product.
Sure. I mean, I assume how many of you in the audience have ever solved an online quiz, for instance? Well, you see, it's a good representation of the audience. So, we have across our network about 200 million monthly uniques that are consuming content. And if you ask them whether they play a game, they'll say no. But really, the kind of interaction they're having, the kind of experience they're going through, is really based on the foundation of game mechanics. So, in a way, it's a substitute for games.
Exactly, and this is what I'm saying. So we're almost games 3.0 at this point, because we've taken walking in knowing I'm playing a game, making a decision to playing a game being in advance, and now taking the grammar that I know from games and putting it into other aspects of my life that become more engaging. And we'll talk about later how Shaul is making this so that it's effective for owners of content and different ways for people to engage with the brand. But now, Oz, Futurefly?
Absolutely. So my name's Oskari Häkkinnen, which is a long and difficult Finnish name, so people just call me Oz. I'm the founder and chief product officer at a company called Futurefly, which is a relatively new company. We founded it in early 2014, worked as a garage band, got some funding at the end of 2014, and we've been for a year now working on our first installation, which is a messaging app. Now, I know that there are way too many messaging apps already out there. But we are doing something very different. So the vision, the company is called Futurefly, and if you see our slogan there, which is Vision the Game, the idea is that we bring in game mechanics And when I say game mechanics, I'm not talking about gamification. I'm talking about playable game mechanics to the front and center of a consumer application experience. So with this messaging application, which is our first installation that we're creating right now, we have 3D avatars and animations. And with that, we believe that we can break down the walls of self-expression. Where, a hug is a hug. Some teens could potentially have their first kiss over the application. You can play mini games to decide, you want to go and eat sushi, I want to go and have pizza. We'll play rock, paper.
Use some sushi right now.
Rock, paper, scissors. We can make those kind of decisions through these kind of small mini games.
So it's pretty much anything anybody would be doing in a Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, but now all of a sudden you can express yourself.
Absolutely.
In all kinds of different ways. Okay, Lars, you've graduated, you moved beyond the game business, and now you turned into the guy with the very deep pockets.
Right, so I guess I represent the investor side on this panel, but so I'm one of the 3 founding partners of EQT Ventures, a new venture capital team here in Europe. But I recently came from the game industry. I spent 6.5 years at King Digital. The first year there I spent playing about 10,000 Flash games, of which I licensed 200 for the King website, back before Facebook, before mobile. Then after that, I produced some of the first Facebook games for King, and among which Bubble Witch Saga, the first cross-platform title, was one. And then I started the mobile games unit at King and managed a team that made Candycrush Saga.
So when did you do that?
Sorry?
When did you start the mobile games unit?
That was in January 2012. We started recruiting the team, and
It's kind of late.
yeah, we definitely weren't the first to the table, so to say. But we used to say that we were like Alta Vista and Google.
Right.
Google weren't the first ones doing a
But
certain
then
kind of
Candy Crush has done okay for you
yeah,
guys.
but as long as you do it best,
Yeah, so Candy Crush
it's
did
fine
okay.
to be late.
Yeah. So now, Shaul, you get a few people using this thing of yours.
So it seems, yes.
So how many people are actively touching a PlayBuzz product every day?
So, we're talking on a monthly basis about 200 million users. What's interesting is not only that the top level number is high, it's really the fact that when they use it, their level of engagement is very high. So, they're not just visiting a website that is using PlayBuzz and going away, they're actually having a very meaningful engagement. If you compare the time spent on page and the completion rates and the share rates that we see on content created with PlayBuzz versus regular content, then we are sometimes 10 or 20 or 50 times
So now when somebody sends me the thing that says, which actor are you?
Yeah, chances are, we had something to do with it.
Okay.
Just going back to a previous point that you made to Steve Jobs' quote about hardware, I think that Steve Jobs' main contribution was in the fact that, just to remind everyone, he said that people buy hardware not for the sake of hardware, but for the sake of the experiences they can have with it. I think that Steve Jobs himself, his legacy is that he kind of changed that and made it that, people really, excuse my French, people buy hardware so they can get laid or they can get some sort of a social currency in terms of...
This might be a uniquely Israeli thing.
I don't know if
that hasn't been part of my mindset.
I would say that...
Can we do a PlayBuzz poll of the audience to find out if this is an important factor?
Well, I don't know if that admit, but
maybe this is really number one instead of games.
I told you I'll try and be provocative to wake them up.
There you go. This is working. Is everybody?
Just to contextualize it, people buy a piece of hardware.
What kind of women
today.
are you dating that the computer is?
Since I'm a happily married man for the past 15 years, I wouldn't know. But
this is interesting. Hi, baby. I just bought a new Apple.
Really, Kit, you're not letting my way out of this.
I've got 533 gigahertz. What do you think? I just got a big NVIDIA Pro card.
I think we're just talking about different hardware, right?
No, I think that people buy a new iPhone,
computers,
a model of a phone or a new iPad because they think it's cool in the sense that it's a positioning statement. So, they don't want to be caught with an old model.
This is
kind of like what we've seen with cars.
In public, you're branding yourself. It's like the shirt you wear, the phone you have.
Exactly. But, it's a very high-priced item, and people really don't appreciate the subtleties of, everything that gets reviewed on CNET about how large is the screen, how crisp is the resolution,
right.
and how quick is the processing. What they know is that they own an iPhone 6, or, they own the latest model of a Samsung Galaxy or whatever that is. And that became a need on its own. And, I think that's really the revolution that we're experiencing in technology is because of the fact that technology is no longer a mean, it became a goal.
Right. No, and absolutely. We used to buy based on features. We look at a computer. What's the speed? Is it expandable? There are things that we don't even think about and we haven't thought about for years. So you've hit an awful lot of users. This was an easy roll, and this is I'm setting up for Oz because you had a very easy path. You just started on day one, and the users started to pour in, and ever since then it's just been like this.
It always looks easy from the outside. There are really no freelancers.
It doesn't even look like that from the outside. I'm trying to get you to explain what you did.
So no, it doesn't. It took us about 2 years from the moment we started the company. We developed one product, we tabled it, we developed another, we launched it. It was very hard to get the first few partners and first users on board. The good thing, and I guess that your experience at King was similar, is once you nail it, once you get to this sweet spot of something that really does resonate with users and triggers this extra, this extracurricular activity of not only engaging with it but also sharing it, then it becomes a pretty scalable, pretty massive play. It doesn't mean that your concerns are over or that everything happens by itself, but at least you're up to a trajectory that you're now faced with the nice challenge of managing.
Now, what was the point where you felt this is going to go? I don't have to worry about my next job.
It's an interesting.
Or is it still happening?
No, it's well. Look, I mean, it's.
I can business, help you. We can find people. You're employable.
Business always has its challenges, but there was this one moment about 3 months after we launched. Our platform is an open platform, so everyone can create content. And then one day in the very early days where we would still, we still had very few users, so we could see everyone that comes in and creates an item. Some end user from England created an online quiz. At the time, we only had quizzes. Now we expanded to a lot of other formats of content. And that quiz was such an overnight hit that on that day, on February 26, 2014, we had
Not that you remember the day or something.
Exactly. Not that it was a defining moment in my life. We had 1,000 unique users on the website. The following day, February 27th, we had 1 million unique users on the website.
Wow.
So that was definitely a moment in which we could feel that something is brewing in.
And it wasn't a DNS attack?
No. It was very genuine usage.
Okay, so Lars.
Can I ask how you're monetizing?
We monetize using advertising, so we didn't, invent the wheel in that case. We now have more sophisticated ways of monetization. At the same time, by the way, we did not monetize at all. We were concerned purely, as I guess all of you did when you launch a product, only about getting the usage right. And this was the first evidence that we're onto something, that users really do engage with this format of content in the manner that we hope that they will.
Okay, so Lars, you also launched an application that got up and grew. What was your ramp at King? And when did you know you were there?
I think King has always been a fairly data-driven organization. And
right.
When you do the mobile or Facebook games, you typically soft launch a game in one or several markets, and you monitor primarily retention numbers first. And then after that, you try to optimize to get the customer lifetime value up.
But did you ultimately start to narrow down to games that were working and focus on fewer than the 10,000 that you were starting with?
I think from we were fortunate enough that our type of games that we were making on the web also were very suitable for the mobile games generation.
Right.
I think there are plenty of companies that made games, great games for the web, that weren't as fortunate that the game formats that they were making also worked on
Okay, so now you're sitting in between the #1 shared application on Facebook and one of the guys who had a hand in the #1 game in the history of games played by, what is it, something like 20% of China's playing it at any time or something like this?
I don't know the latest numbers, but it's like 350 million MAU.
I think it was something like Ricardo once told me that it was something like 90% of the people in internet cafes. Anyways, everybody in the world is playing Candy Crush. Most of you are probably playing Candy Crush, and now you're launching in March, and we expect you to be back here next year to be bigger than both of them. But what are you thinking about, and what are you anticipating in terms of letting the world know that this messaging app is out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm thinking about, and to think that they started their mobile division at King in 2012. I was at Remedy Entertainment in 2010, and I started the mobile division in Remedy Entertainment in 2010. So he already kicked my ass once.
If you want to be really intimidated, Tencent, in their first year starting mobile, went from 0 to 1.6 billion and became the biggest publisher in China in the first year.
Right. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, just some of the things that I'm thinking about. I was at Remedy Entertainment. I was launching a mobile game called Agents of Storm, and my boss at the time, who's at Wargaming now, Matthias Mulunen, said to me, Oz, you need to look after the user acquisition for Agents of Storm. And I was like, that's cool, what's my budget? And he gave me my budget, which was less than what Supercell was spending in 2 hours. And I cried.
But they spent a lot of money.
They spent a lot of money, but it was not a lot of money that was given to me for my UA.
Compete with.
Yeah. No, of course.
And what I actually did was I started to do a ton of research on how to do user acquisition in games and try to find some innovative ways to do user acquisition in games. And obviously, I gravitated directly to the Kim Kardashian Hollywood game because they did because of Kim Kardashian, of course. No, because Glue Mobile had done an amazing job with, really using her social media power to get users on board. And then I started to look at other things within the gaming industry and didn't find any other really good examples of how to do UA where you get organic or viral growth without spending a hell of a lot of money up front. So I started to look into the messaging space. And I looked at Snapchat, I started looking at Snapchat, but then I started looking at WhatsApp and WeChat and Kakao Talk and Line and so forth. And they all had their own stories in some shape or form. But the one thing that kind of glued them together was that they all had brought something new to the messaging space that hadn't been seen before, whether it was disappearing messages or group chat or cross-platform messaging or Doodle or something or other. And I woke up one morning and I was like, where are the avatars and where are the animations? And if you had those, would you be able to break down the walls of self-expression? Now kind of going forward, obviously I'm bringing this, I'm taking everything that I've learned in the past. I used to work on the publisher side at Microsoft. I used to work at Electronic Arts and at Remedy, and I've done AAA and I've done mobile and I've learned the free-to-play. So I'm applying everything that I've learned from games to your point that King was a very data-driven company. We are a very data-driven company. So we're taking a page out of that book. We're taking a page out of
Where are you
Super
getting your data? You don't have any users yet.
So we're in, we do have some users. We are in soft launch. I won't tell you where. And we are testing a lot of the mechanisms there for what we are doing. And we're treating this messaging app, the way that we're launching it, we're actually treating it in exactly the same way as we would launch a free-to-play game. We also have virtual currency in there, and we're building it like a free-to-play game, essentially. We're doing daily rewards. These are the kind of things that we've learned from the gaming side that messaging people just don't know about. We're tracking lifetime value, ARPU. We have the data and analytics in the back end, so we know exactly what people are doing and learning from what they're doing as well. And I think that, working in the gaming industry for over 13 years has been the best school possible to do what I'm doing right now.
Here's a philosophical question for you. Do you think that Snapchatting is essentially gaming? It's essentially playing a game?
I absolutely think the Snapchat is a game. I think a lot of what we're seeing in a lot of consumer applications is some sort of gamification. A lot of folks are thinking about it.
If you look at a game, and we define a game as not looking at playing Halo or Call of Duty or something like this, if we look at a game as a goal, achievable within a rule set, with real-time feedback. This is why the urinal fly in the Munich airport is a game. Snapchat is a game. eBay is a game. A dating service is a game. We have a goal. We're getting real-time feedback. And then we're able to stay within the rule set to achieve the goal. So in Snapchat, the goal is communicate with my friends, but also how many friends are responding. It's just like Facebook, putting up a picture, how many likes do I get? So this is the...
Or maybe it's a dating platform as well.
Was it?
Snapchat, dating platform.
Yeah.
But I would argue even further. I would say that if we take a snapshot of what is the...
Don't argue. We all agree we're friends.
No. That's, we will not let that stand for long. If we take a snapshot of what is the dictionary definition for a game today and compare it to what it was 15 years ago or what it's going to be 15 years from now, I bet you it will evolve.
Right.
Because, this notion of gaming is becoming... and bear with me if it gets a little bit poetic here, but, as we as we are growing apart from each other, or we have less direct communication with people, we communicate more and more through technology, more and more through devices. So all these little games, as we call them, all those interactions that happened in some sort of a technology silo around a certain rules, like I'll send you a picture and it will disappear after 5 seconds and you'll send me yours, are becoming a more vital form of communication. It really makes gaming to be part of our lives in a way that is, crucial to our survival, if you will, beyond just the entertainment value of a traditional game.
Well, it opens up to communication as well, because now things that you wouldn't say, you're anonymous, you're behind an avatar, you're sending only the picture you want, and it lets people say something they wouldn't say. Now, Shaul and Lars.
I think the term games industry also has expanded a lot in the last 5 years. I mean, if we would have had this panel at DLD 6 or 7 years ago, it likely would have been 3 guys from a AAA
games, exactly.
Right.
One
Since
talking
then-
about action, one talking about a story-driven game,
And the
one
difference is
talking
we
about
would
an
have had
RPG.
3 guys from AAA games and nobody would have been in the audience.
And if you go back 20 years, it would have been people talking about Nintendo games, maybe.
Well, no,
Or
I
PC games.
think what's going to happen is because we're seeing a generation of people. So when the 3 of you were growing up, I'm older than you. When the 3 of you, when I was growing up, people were using tablets and chisels instead of paper, relative to you guys. But when you were growing up, you all grew up with games.
Yeah.
So there was a game console in your house when you were very young. I got my first game console when I was in law school. It's stunted development, it's horrible personality, but a bunch of different reasons. But you will bring those rules that you learned and the ways that you had game mechanics into everything that you're doing. So as a natural method of communication, you're looking at incorporating the things that you played, the things you grew up with.
Yeah, and it goes both ways. I mean, as you said, you're applying, games are still a territory of early adopters, even though it became mainstream. So obviously not all of the, Candy Crush Saga players are early adopters by definition, but still look at a lot of the digital phenomena that exist today, like auctions, like messaging boards, like e-commerce, like social networks. They all started in the gaming world, okay? They all existed in gaming environment or rudimentary versions of them, including in games, and you could foresee that those people that are playing games are kind of setting the trend or, giving you a peek into the future of which experiences will become mainstream. And if you look at even, advanced hardware or, what is virtual reality and, how will that affect not only the gaming world, but other worlds, it starts from games. What is the first implication of virtual reality? It's obviously games before it will be driven into content, into other facets of mainstream.
Well, it's games, porn, gambling, drive every new technology. And not as a joke. I mean, this is real. We have compressed video because of porn.
I'll take your word about porn and gambling.
The one who's
I have
buying
less
phones
experience.
too.
But,
Yeah, you. Okay. Exactly. Yeah, you're the one that doesn't know about this, Mr. Innocent. So Shaul and Oz, you're both venture-backed, which is a little bit unique. Not as unique as it was, but it's kind of unique in games. So Lars, you're one of the people that's going to be writing the checks. A lot of venture capitalists don't like games as a category. So if you were looking to invest in games, I'm making an assumption here. If you're looking to invest in games, then what would you be looking for in a game company to make it worthy of investment?
I think it depends on the game or type of game company. Again, the term is now so wide that there's no single formula to it. I'd be looking for a very different company if it's a VR company, trying to learn about the VR industry and cracking the first commercial success there, than if I would look into backing a PlayStation 4 game studio. There I would need a 300-man studio making a AAA production over 3 years. In a mobile games company, maybe what you want is a passionate team of bootstrap developers, but also with the ambition to build a company long term.
But do you think there's still an opportunity for a mobile game company, pure mobile game, like a Supercell, to start up today and be able to become a Supercell?
I think it's, yeah, of course, but I think it's increasingly competitive. I think if you look at the top lists, the top grossing lists, they're not changing. Candy Crush still up there, Clash of Clans, Boom Beach. These titles were all released in 2012, they're still up there.
That was true. You gave the Google Alta Vista example. I remember that when Google came out, I heard a very sound investor explaining that this market is already monopolized by Tommy and Alta Vista, and no one will ever be able to get in.
And Lycos, don't forget that, they were huge.
I'm hearing at least a lot of VCs gravitating back towards games. So a couple of years ago, they were kind of going like, we're not going to touch games because it's a hit-driven business, and they were only looking at the top grossing games and saying, well, listen, Supercell and King are, grossing in excess of $1 million, $2 million a day. If we can't have that, we don't want anything. Now it's starting to calibrate a lot more. So they're starting to actually understand that actually making $5,000 a day is actually good money with a team of 10. And if you can sustain that for a couple of years and then slowly grow from there, I'm sure that's the thinking that you have right now, that niche games with a very...
This is not the pitch that you had when you went out to raise money.
This is not the pitch I had.
Okay, so now you successfully... Yeah, exactly.
I do believe in niche games. I do believe in a very dedicated audience, whether it be very small, but as long as they're spending money and enjoying the game and coming back into it.
Investors invest in background. They invest in the individual team members more than they invest in the plan, and your background is games. So what did you find when you went out to raise money?
So one thing that VCs have got really smart with is wanting to see data. So when I went out to raise money, we were pre-launch, obviously, and pre-data. So one of the first things that I was seeing was, hey, you know, where's the data? All right, we don't have any data. The app looks phenomenal. We really see that you're doing something very innovative here, improving the chat experience that hasn't been done for a very long time. But we're not investing anything. You're a little bit too early for us, is what we heard mostly.
I think you need to be a multi-stage investor to be really comfortable with gaming. You need to be able to take the early bets before you get the data. Otherwise, it may be too late. But once the data gets in and it's good enough...
You don't need them
then you need a lot more money.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, that could have been enough. You could have risen the charts without the deep pockets.
Right.
But now you need to have maybe another 50 million euros to really invest in marketing and get that loop going.
Which is a lot more.
So what they want to hear is, what is your user acquisition strategy, right? And if your user acquisition strategy is to spend their money on purchasing users, then nobody's going to invest in that.
Right.
You know, the Kim Kardashian case has already been done. What is the next thing? You're seeing companies like Seriously and Supercell doing stuff with charities, like the Supercell Red campaign for AIDS, or Seriously, the Malaria No More campaign.
Right.
You know, working closely with YouTubers, doing philanthropy activities to get that kind of mind share. What is the next UA strategy? I don't know.
So now, Shaul, you raised money and started out, got a seed round. You did it in Israel, where I understand that money is just falling from trees for startups. You just walk around.
As I said, it always looks easy from the outside.
So you walked outside with a bucket, and you just held it out, and the money was there for the...
Unfortunately, the bucket wasn't large enough, so we had to deal with a pretty tight budget at first.
But you went out and you said you're starting a game company. Still, even in Israel, this is a difficult thing. It's difficult to start with as a startup. So how did you find the market and...
You know, I think it's more of an art than science, because the venture capital market is always, skewing according to fashion. So there was a time in which no VC fund would ever invest in games, and there was a period of time, short a bit, that they invested in nothing else but games, right? That was when Zynga came along and people saw the potential of social gaming and how it can spread. So, I think it's a lot about the people and about convincing them that you're on a mission. You have a unique vision of your own and you're going to pursue it, and it may change 20 times, but the foundations of it is that, you just got to do it and you got to find a way to be successful with it. And, rest assured, when your company goes public or whatever, when you're sitting here in the chair of the one who made it, your story is going to sound different than the story you're telling today. But everyone who would invest in you right now is completely aware of it. It's more about, who you are, what is your experience, and this level of comfort, and it's not necessarily a logical decision, that somebody talks to you and they feel like this guy is for real. This guy, he really feels that. He's not just memorizing some, taglines and slogans that are common in the industry right now. He really means it. He knows what he's doing. Let's go. And, it's a quest, and who knows when this quest is going to end or where it's going to end. But, you need to have a sense of purpose, which, you obviously do. So
I think you also need to be a company builder now if you're a game developer. Not just a game developer passionate about games. You also need to be passionate about building a company with a marketing department, branding.
And this makes it a very good business. We're more predictable on mobile, which makes it a very good business, just not necessarily venture backable. It's not a venture business as much as it used to be or was for that point in time, but it's still a good business. I want to get into, because you guys have an interesting content development model. So Lars, when you were at King, what went into developing a game?
You mean time or...
Everything internal. So you developed the game.
Right.
This is all internal creation.
Yep.
You tested in territories.
Right, so Candycrush on mobile we made in 6 months, a team of 8 people. And
But
we
then
launched-
you tested.
Yeah,
launched.
we soft launched it, and the numbers were phenomenal, and then we moved on to hard launch.
Okay, and if nobody in your company was working on making a game, did you have any new games?
We had a lot of games in development at the same time.
Okay, so Shaul, your content comes from
The community.
the community.
Yeah.
Nothing from you.
That's true. We are.
You don't make anything.
You know, we're a platform company. We're not a content company, so we're not a traditional gaming company for any purpose. But we created a platform, and then we let people who are much better content creators than us use it in order to create great content, and that's why it's successful.
So you don't have to worry about what's going to be popular. The audience worries, they make it themselves, and then other people decide what's going to happen.
Yeah, we worry primarily about optimizing the platform, analyzing based on data, what is being used, how is it being used, how can we optimize it, how can we perfect it. We're all about putting in, if you're a content also, we want to give you the tool that will make your content successful. So we're actually taking a larger liability, if you will, because we don't rely on our own talent exclusively. We need to make sure that we give you the platform to be successful with, the tools that will bring your talent to light and make it shine.
Right, so there's this Israeli guy I met a long time ago. Some of you may know him, his name's Yossi Vardi. And he told me that you heard of the guy?
Are you sure he's Israeli?
Yeah, he's Israeli. Yossi Vardi, yeah. So he told me that ICQ was interesting because to him, instant messaging is the soap opera of the future. And people are creating their own content, just like we're talking about here. So now, Oz, you're not creating content either. Now, you're giving people avatars, you're creating assets. Eventually, you may open that up for other people to make assets and put things in the environment. You're already going to let them put in pictures, images, unless I'm disclosing a secret now. And if I am, you guys are all privileged. You got super secret information about Futurefly. But so you're relying on user-generated, we call it UGC, user-generated content as well.
Absolutely. So first-time user experiences that folks come into the application, they create their own avatar. So they create that first contents for themselves. And then we have stuff like custom backgrounds and stuff that they can take from their own photos. Then we have a ton of content that we've created. So at the moment, animations and clothing items and props and stuff like that, our users won't be able to create. That's stuff that we are creating for them. But certainly, we want to take a page out of Steam's book and give the users the opportunity, if we're big enough,
right,
obviously, the opportunity to create that content themselves. Because at the end of the day, I think the users know best what they want.
Right.
We can kind of try and imagine what it is that our users want. But I mean, our target demographic is probably going to be from 10 years old to 25 years old. I'm 37 years old. I do not have a clue what a 13-year-old girl wants.
Shaul does, because he's buying hardware to attract them. So let me just ask one quick question, then we'll go to questions in the audience. But just briefly from Shaul and Oz, both of you are working with brands. So maybe Shaul, and Oz, if you can talk about how you're doing that, like how you integrate with something like Build or Focus or something like this.
Sure, these are the publishers we work with, but put them aside. If you're talking about commercial brands, about advertisers, they also see that engagement is low. They're trying to create real engagement. They don't want to impose an ad on you that will pop up and you'll do everything you can to block it or deny it. They're trying to create something that will actually make a meaningful level of attention from the user, that will actually get the user to really engage with their message, with their product, with their brand attributes. So, games are a great example. If you're able to create game experiences that really are engaging and let them create their own content around it, then they will generate the kind of attention that they really want in an
So they're able to
advertisement.
use the PlayBuzz platform to engage next to an example of a brand.
That's how we make a living nowadays.
Okay. And now, what would you do if a brand came along and wanted to?
So our user acquisition strategy is to partner. We're the bird on the back of the rhino, so to speak.
I think that's probably a Finnish expression.
It is actually.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to anyone else?
I can see it in my head.
Okay. All right.
It's a cute little bird.
It is a Finnish thing. So, but I think you get the idea.
I do.
So yeah, that is part of our user acquisition strategy to partner with people that are bigger than us. So we're looking for product placements, IP, and celebrities.
So I might have Darth Vader as one of the avatars.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a store, and we do have a virtual currency. And within that store, then we hope there'll be a ton of content for all types of people from all walks of life. So stuff that potentially from studios. It would be super cool if, 2 weeks ago, if we were live and we had all the Star Wars content in there, so you'd be able to get a lightsaber and a cape. And similar stuff for the future as well. Celebrity stuff like the Kim Kardashian stuff. Instead of having the whole application branded around Kim Kardashian, then you just have a particular store
that has... It's a different age. I mean, first of all, instead of having to build things and hope they work and employ people to build things and guest content, you guys are kind of opening up the bar and letting people come in and serve themselves, have their own party.
Essentially.
And then the other thing is, instead of having a branded game that a lot of people don't like, if I put out the Harry Potter game and it's not very good, you guys are incorporating brands to build the platform and let them express themselves to have incentives equal to yours.
Absolutely, and one of the things that we want to achieve is to have enough brands in there that doesn't feel awkward. So when I was at Remedy Entertainment, we released a game called Alan Wake. And the thing that I wanted to really achieve there was to get enough brands in there that it felt like a real-life world.
Right.
Unfortunately, doing deals with brands just takes a hell of a lot of time, and I only got 4. Because I only got 4 brands, then the audience hated those 4 brands. But if I would have had 100 brands in there, that it would have felt like a real living world.
Right.
And that's something that I want to achieve with this. Obviously learn from some of their mistakes in the past, is to have enough brands in there that doesn't rub anyone the wrong way.
Okay. We've got 3 minutes before Alexandra comes up and beats me about the head and the shoulders for running over schedule, and she can be very mean, so I don't want to get in trouble. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask anybody? Is anybody awake? Anything? We can keep talking if... Okay.
I'm just excited. I'm sitting next to someone who works for Remedy, who used to work for Remedy. Oh my God.
So now,
Spain forever.
I got something really...
best. It's amazing.
I got something really important for you, though, Shaul.
Lifetime fan.
Thank you.
Enough. Okay. You're not the moderator, and neither is he. So, is Facebook dead?
Is Facebook a game?
Is it dead?
Is it dead? No.
It seems like everybody says it's a useless place to put stuff.
I would say that, our research shows that there's a certain age in which people are not using Facebook as much any longer, but then they get back to it later on. I think that Facebook has done a tremendous job, better than anyone in history yet, of planning for growth. In terms of continuing to evolve and stay viable. We also have to separate between Facebook, the property, and Facebook as a corporate entity, because they own other properties as well that continue to have life and future.
But now, are you...
For the future, I'm sure that Facebook will not be as dominant as they are today in terms of content discovery and other areas of online activity.
Is this a strong platform for you?
But it doesn't mean that they're dead.
Is this a strong platform for you today?
Well, we work primarily with content publishers, not so much directly, so the dominance of Facebook affects us less, but it does affect all of our publishing partners, so it's definitely a key factor in the market.
I think people are creatures of habit. Most people use the same 7 to 9 apps every day, day after day, year after year. And Facebook probably owns 3 or 4 of those for most people. So even if it's not as good as it used to be for discovery of new games, maybe, it's still one of those platforms you have to be on, I think, if you get it.
I think for teens, the Facebook feed is dead. And they don't care about the Facebook feed, but they use Facebook for login and various other things. Then again, for our demographic, I think pretty much everyone in this room has logged into Facebook today, so it certainly isn't dead.
Okay, that's what we've got. If there are any questions. Thank you, gentlemen.